Kailangan maganda. Maganda, matalino. Matalino.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting of JG Summit Holdings Incorporated. The meeting will start in a few minutes. For those joining us on site, kindly put your cell phone on mute or silent mode so as not to disrupt the proceedings. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats.
Good afternoon, everyone. The annual stockholders meeting of JG Summit Holdings, Inc. is broadcasting live from the Jade Room of Crown Plaza, Manila Galleria. We would like to acknowledge the following members of the Board of Directors of the corporation present here at the venue and those joining us virtually. Here at the venue, we have the following: Mr. Lance Gokongwei, Mr. Patrick Henry Go, Mr. Johnson Robert Go Jr., Mr. Antonio Go, former Chief Justice Artemio Panganiban, and Ms. Bernardine C., and our incoming independent director, Mr. Antonio Jose Periquet. Please note that our beloved chairman, Mr. James Go, and Ms. Robina Gokongwei are currently joining the meeting remotely. Also joining us today in person are other officers of the corporation and representatives of our external auditor, CSIP Gores Velayo and Company. We would like to remind stockholders who have registered to vote live during this meeting to scan the QR code that will be flashed on screen. Let us now start the meeting. Please welcome our chairman, Mr. James Elgo.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2025 Annual Stockholder Meeting of JG Summit Holdings, Inc. May I request the Corporate Secretary to please certify on the sending of notices to the stockholders and to the existence of a quorum for this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby certify that notice of this meeting had been sent to the stockholders of record as of April 7, 2025 via the following methods. First, by publication in the Manila Standard and the Business Mirror for 2 consecutive days, specifically on April 22nd and 23rd, 2025, in both online and print formats. Second, by posting on the website of the corporation. And third, by disclosure to the Philippine Stock Exchange. Thus, the stockholders have been notified of this meeting in compliance with applicable rules and regulations. Mr. Chairman, I hereby certify that there are present in this meeting via remote communication or by proxy stockholders entitled to vote representing 85.11% of the corporation's total outstanding shares, and that this meeting is therefore competent to transact the business provided for in the agenda.
There being a quorum, the annual meeting of stockholders of JG Summit Holdings is hereby called to order. May I request the Corporate Secretary to share with us the rules and procedures for this meeting.
The rules and procedures are set forth in the definitive information statement and in the explanation of agenda items integrated into the notice of this meeting. All tabulation results for this meeting are subject to validation by Grant Thornton Philippines. For the information of the stockholders who are with us now during this live broadcast, the corporation has requested stockholders to send their questions or comments by email. Questions which were received by May 5, 2025 have been collated and selected questions will be answered later on. The corporation will reply to the questions and comments not taken up during this meeting through email.
Let us now proceed to the next item in the agenda, the approval of the minutes of the annual meeting of the stockholders held on June 3, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, copies of the minutes have been distributed to the stockholders by providing the link to the said minutes in the information statement and by showing the QR code on the screen prior to this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, inasmuch as the copies of the minutes of the previous annual stockholders meeting had been made available to the stockholders prior to this meeting, I move that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with, and I request that all votes without restrictions be recorded in favor of its approval.
I second the motion.
Mr. Chairman, the minutes have been approved as submitted by votes representing 85.11% of the total outstanding shares of the corporation.
Since it has been moved and seconded and there are no objections, The reading of minutes is hereby dispensed with, and the minutes are hereby approved as presented. Moving on, the next item in the agenda, may I now call on Mr. Lance Y. Go Kong Wei, President and Chief Executive Officer of the corporation, to present his report together with the audited financial statements for the preceding fiscal year.
JG Summit navigated a year filled with both favorable tailwinds and challenging headwinds in 2024. On one hand, we saw robust demand for travel and leisure, improving sales volume for consumer goods, and increased chemical plant operations. This all translated to a 10% growth in consolidated revenues to 379 billion in 2024. These were further boosted by 7.9 billion gain we recognized from merging Robinsons Bank with BPI. However, we also noted headwinds in our subsidiaries, specifically the unfavorable polymer margins at JG Stock, additional depreciation and interest from Cebu Pacific's fleet investments, and the correction in sugar profits at URC. All in all, our core profits and net incomes closed at 25.1 and 21.3 billion respectively, up 30% and 6% year on year. Moving on to our strategic business units, URC's international division maintained its momentum, underpinning overall top-line growth, while the domestic market began showing improvements since the fourth quarter of 2024. Full-year operating income and net income slipped 4% to 16.7 and 11.7 billion respectively due to the profit correction at sugar, along with the wider losses from its discontinued China operations. Excluding sugar, URC's EBIT was up 20% with margin improvements across the rest of the business. URC continues to drive volumes and increase market shares, focusing on better value, both in terms of affordability and through its innovation pipeline. On the international front, URC Malaysia gained a significant lead in market share versus its key competitors in biscuits, while C2 became the #1 ready-to-drink tea brand in Vietnam. Robinsons Land continued to see 14% growth in its investment portfolio, compensating for the decline in its residential segment. These drove consolidated revenues and EBITDA up by 3% and 2% respectively to 40.1 and 23.3 billion, while RLC's core and net income contribution to JG Summit ended flat year on year. RLC infused 13 assets valued at 34 billion into RCR in 2024, allowing the REIT to expand its presence across both offices and malls. It also opened and completed various properties, namely the Opus Mall and GPF Office Towers 1 and 2 in Bridgetown, as well as several new warehouses in Laguna, Rizal, and Pampanga. Cebu Air saw a double-digit expansion in top line as more attractive fares helped stimulate and sustain volume growth. Revenues totaled 105 billion pesos on the back of passenger count increasing by 18% year on year to 24.5 million. 2024 EBITDA also improved around the same pace as top line. Given the aircraft supply issues that we anticipated in 2024, Cebu invested in additional fleet, ending the year with 98 aircraft versus 85 at year-end 2023. This resulted in much higher depreciation and interest expense, which led core and net profits to fall around 30% to 5 billion pesos. In 2024, Cebu Pacific cemented its growth strategy by signing an agreement with Airbus for a landmark 1.4 trillion peso order for up to 152 aircraft. This is the largest deal in Philippine aviation history, and it's a testament to our dedication to serve everyone. Aside from this, it also acquired AirSwift, allowing us to operate direct flights to El Nido. Through this transaction, Cebu Pacific will be able to strengthen its network and further solidify its leadership position in the country. The global petrochemical industry stock market conditions continue to prevail, leading the profits of JG Summit Olefins to slip year on year. Coming from a commercial shutdown in the first half of 2023, the increased plant and operations to sales volume in 2024 drove a 33% rise in revenues. However, unfavorable polymer margins continue to affect the company's profitability. EBITDA loss widened to 7.1 billion, while net losses reached 17.3 billion pesos. For our core investments, JG Summit's share in Meralco's net income grew 21% to 12 billion pesos on the back of record distributions, sales, plus higher power generation contributions. Equitized net profits in Singapore Land rose 31%, given increased hotel operations and leasing income. We saw a decline in the dividends received from PLDT due to the absence of special dividends that were declared in 2023, but this was offset by our inaugural first-year dividends from BPI. On our ecosystem plays, GoTime Bank onboarded 5.4 million customers and grew its deposit base to 25.4 billion as of the end of 2024. DHL Summit Solutions continued to expand beyond the Gokongwei Group as it absorbed external customers from our partner DHL. Lipad served around 2.4 million passengers and over 19,000 flights through 2024. And our venture capital arm JG Dev reviewed nearly 500 startups in the year and ultimately made 6 additional investments. Lastly, on Data Analytics Ventures Inc., the Go Rewards member base expanded 44% to 10.9 million. JG Summit's balance sheet remains healthy with consolidated debt equity and net gearing ratios of 0.66 and 0.54 as at the end of 2024. The parent received 17.3 billion in dividends, a 10% increase given by URC, RLC Meralco, and the new dividends from BPI. Parent company's net debt rose 17% year-on-year with additional borrowings to fund the 17 billion peso capital infusion into JG SOC in the fourth quarter to help it meet its obligations. Meanwhile, JG Summit's capex increased 4% year-on-year, mainly from the additional fleet investment made by Cebu in 2024, alongside RLC's continued investment portfolio expansion. For 2025, we anticipate capex to be much lower for Cebu, given that most of its capacity growth has already been front-loaded in 2024. On our sustainability journey, we have begun the adoption of IFRS S1 and S2, as well as our transition risk management, which includes scenario analysis. We have also managed to improve our ESG scores over the years, and we expect to continue engaging with various raters to maintain our scores. Let me give you a quick snapshot of our results in the first quarter of 2025, which we released to the public yesterday. Top line was buoyed by strong demand for leisure as well as encouraging trends in consumption recovery. This outweighed the lower residential revenues recognized for units sold during the pandemic, as well as the expected downward impact from the plant shutdown on petrochemical sales volumes. Thus, consolidated revenues expanded 2% year-on-year to 98.2 billion. Excluding petrochemicals, whose production has been halted since January 2025, JG Summit's top line is up 10%. As disclosed previously, given persistent challenge in the global petrochemical industry, JG SOC will remain on a prolonged shutdown for at least 2 years as approved by the JG Summit board. Meanwhile, the absence of last year's bank merger gains largely explains the drop in core and net profits. Excluding such gains, as well as the losses from JG SOC, core net income only fell 7%. This year-on-year decline was mainly due to Cebu's higher fleet-related cost following its significant airline investments, which only started impacting the P&L in the third quarter of 2024. All told, we ended the first quarter 2025 with net profits of 4.3 billion pesos. As 2025 unfolds, we expect to gain momentum as inflation eases and as consumer sentiment improves. We are also seeing green shoots from several initiatives we have implemented across our businesses. Our ecosystem plays in digital banking, supply chain and logistics, and airport operations are also showing great promise as future legs of growth for the business. Recognizing that JG Summit plays a key role in the country's development, we continue to uphold our purpose, resolute in our commitment to providing our customers with better choices and creating shared success with all our stakeholders. With the continued patronage of our customers, as well as the invaluable contributions and support from our employees, business partners, and shareholders, we are confident to carry on and chart a path towards brighter horizons for everyone.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions? If there are no questions from the floor, the chair will entertain a motion to note the report of the President and approve the audited financial statements for the preceding fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the report of the President be noted and that the audited financial statements for the preceding fiscal year be approved as presented.
I second the motion.
Are there any objections? If there are no objections, Madam Corporate Secretary, may we please have the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, we are pleased to report that stockholders representing 85.09% of the outstanding shares of the corporation have approved the audited financial statements of the corporation for the preceding calendar year as presented.
The report of the President is accordingly noted, and the audited financial statements for the preceding fiscal year are hereby approved as presented. We now go to the election of the members of the Board of Directors. May I request the Corporate Secretary to read the names of the incumbent members of the Board of Directors.
Mr. Chairman, the incumbent members of the Board of Directors are Mr. James L. Go, Mr. Lance Y. Gokongwei, Mr. Patrick Henry C. Go, Ms. Robina Gokongwei Pe, Mr. Johnson Robert G. Go Jr., and the independent directors are Mr. Antonio L. Go, Mr. Renato T. de Guzman, Ms. Bernadine C., and former Chief Justice Artemio V. Panganiban.
Thank you. The table is now open for the nomination of the members of the Board of Directors of the corporation. Madam Secretary, may we have the list of nominees?
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the nomination process stated in the bylaws of the corporation, the following have been nominated as members of the Board of Directors: Mr. James L. Go, Mr. Lance Y. Gokongwei, Ms. Robina Gokongwei Pe, Mr. Patrick Henry C. Go, and Mr. Johnson Robert G. Go Jr. And as independent directors, Mr. Antonio L. Go, former Chief Justice Artemio V. Panganiban, Ms. Bernadine C., and Mr. Antonio Jose U. Periquet Jr.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the nominations be closed.
I second the motion.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is carried, and the nominations are closed. There being no other nomination, the Secretary is hereby directed to cast the affirmative votes in favor of those nominated.
Mr. Chairman, the affirmative votes in favor of those nominated have been tabulated, and the following are hereby declared as the duly elected members of the Board of Directors of the corporation for the ensuing year until their successors shall have been elected and qualified. Mr. Chairman, shown on the screen are the numbers of affirmative votes for each director. Mr. James L. Go with total of 84.26%, Mr. Lance Y. Gokongwei with 85.03%, Ms. Robina Gokongwei Pe with 85.04%, Mr. Patrick Henry Go with 85.05%, and Mr. Johnson Robert G. Go Jr. with 85.06%. And for our independent directors, Mr. Antonio Go with 84.55%, former Chief Justice Panganiban with 84.22%, Ms. Bernadine T.C. with 85.05%, and Mr. Antonio Jose U. Periquet Jr. with 85.11%.
Thank you, and congratulations to the elected members of the Board of Directors of the corporation for 2025. Let us move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the appointment of the external auditor of the corporation. The table is now open for the nomination of the external auditor.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate the accounting firm of CISIP Gores Velayo and Company as the external auditor for the corporation for the fiscal year 2025.
I move to close the nomination.
I second the motion.
It having been moved and seconded that the nominations be closed, does the chair hear any objection? The chair hears no objection. Corporate Secretary, do we have the voting results for this agenda item?
After tabulation of the votes, the appointment of CSIP, Gores, Velayo and Company as external auditor of the corporation has been approved by stockholders representing 85.10% of the total outstanding shares of the corporation.
Thank you. The accounting firm of CSIP, Gores, Velayo and Company is hereby appointed as the external auditor of the corporation for the corporate year 2025. Let us proceed to the next item in the agenda, which is the ratification of the acts of the Board of Directors and its committees, officers, and the management of the corporation.
Mr. Chairman, the list of acts for ratification of the stockholders are shown right now on the screen. A copy of the said list have also been distributed to the stockholders present by showing the link and QR code to the said list on the screen prior to the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that all the acts of the Board of Directors, the committees of the Board of Directors, officers, and the management of the corporation for the period beginning from the last annual stockholders meeting up to the current stockholders meeting, as duly recorded in the corporate books and records of the corporation, be confirmed and ratified.
I second the motion.
Is there any objection to the motion as presented and duly seconded? If there are no objections, Madam Secretary, can we please have the voting results for this item?
After tabulation of the votes, stockholders representing 85.09% of the total outstanding shares of the corporation have confirmed and ratified the acts of the Board of Directors and its committees, officers, and management for the period beginning from the last annual stockholders meeting up to the current stockholders meeting as duly recorded in the corporate books and records of the corporation.
Thank you. The acts of the Board of Directors and its committee, officers, and management of the corporation for the period beginning from the last annual meeting of the stockholders up to the current meeting of the stockholders, as duly recorded in the books and records of the corporation, are hereby confirmed and ratified. We will now respond to questions which were earlier submitted via email. The questions will be answered by the President and CEO, Mr. Lance Gokongwei.
Mr. Lance, we have received the following questions from our shareholders. For our first question, what is the company planning to do with its petrochemical business, considering the continuing global uncertainties in this sector?
As I mentioned in the earlier report, we have stopped production in our petrochemical business since January of 2025. As approved by the JG Summit Board, the petrochemical plant will remain on a prolonged shutdown for at least 2 years given persistent challenges in the global petrochemical space. JG Summit Olefins will also implement a manpower rationalization in accordance with all applicable laws and regulations. In light of this, we have instituted an employee care program to aid affected individuals in this transition. Lastly, we have proactively transferred all of JG Summit Olefins debts to the parent company, JG Summit Holdings. Meanwhile, Peak Fuels, our LPG trading subsidiary, will remain operational. All these actions enable us to focus on preserving our assets in Batangas and on evaluating various strategic options for the business while ensuring that all our obligations to our creditors are met.
Mr. Lance, this is the second question. Noting that first quarter 2025 results showed lower net income versus first quarter 2024, how do you intend to improve year-on-year profit growth for the remainder of 2025?
Much of the decline in first quarter can be explained by the one-off merger gain we recognized last year. The timing of the Easter season this year, which fell in second quarter versus first quarter last year, also impacted our year-on-year performance. Now that we are in the second quarter, which is the peak travel season for the Philippines, we will optimize our earlier fleet investments to ensure profitable growth, while we expect the impact of additional depreciation and financing costs to even out over the year. In our food business, we will accelerate volume growth and capitalize on improving consumer sentiment while protecting ourselves against the cost pressures from rising coffee and cocoa prices. On property, we will sustain the expansion of our investment portfolio and drive profitability amidst the challenged residential sector. Lastly, we are confident that the decision to shut down our petrochemical plant will help improve the group's overall consolidated results. Compared to the previous year, cheaper oil prices, a stronger peso, lower interest rates, and easing on inflation all bode well for our businesses.
Thank you very much, Lance. Other questions sent by the stockholders will be answered through email. Are there any other matters to be taken up for consideration of the stockholders?
There are none, Mr. Chairman.
I'm pleased to announce that the Board of Directors of JG Summit has approved a regular cash dividend in the amount of 42 centavos per common share to stockholders of record as of May 30, 2025, which shall be paid on June 11, 2025. The details are being flashed on the screen. Coming into the new year, we have begun addressing the challenges we experienced in 2024 and expect the strategies we have set in place to gain traction as the year progresses. At the parent company, we remain focused on supporting our core business units to drive top line and profit growth. Owing to our vast consumer-facing footprint at the Gokongwei Group, we continue to look for ways to harness the group's strength and unlock synergies within our ecosystem. At the start of 2025, we have made some key leadership changes, with Mabel Aragon Gobio being appointed as President and CEO of Robinson Land, and Mian David leading URC's domestic branded consumer foods business. Meanwhile, we expect Cebu Pacific to deliver strong growth, fueled by last year's significant fleet expansion. For JG Summit Olefins, we continue to evaluate various strategic options, taking into consideration all our stakeholders as we come up with a decision for the future of this business. Our newer businesses are also gaining momentum, with GoTime's customer base expanding rapidly. Our logistics joint venture with DHL onboarding more external clients, and our investment in Clark Airport seeing a significant increase in passenger volumes and flights. The balance of the decade remains uncertain, mainly caused by the shifting tides in politics and geopolitics, locally and internationally, along with the advent of new technologies that have the potential to revolutionize the labor and economic terrains. Nonetheless, the lessons we have learned from 2024 have strengthened our resolve to sail forward with confidence and resilience, meeting its challenge and embracing the opportunities on the horizon. To our shareholders, on behalf of JG Summit, we are grateful for your continued trust and support. Since there are no other matters to discuss, may I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the meeting be adjourned.
I second the motion.
Since it has been moved and seconded, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for joining today's meeting.
This ends the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting of JG Summit Holdings Incorporated. A link where a replay of this meeting may be viewed shall be made available at the website of the corporation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. May we request a picture of the board? I think sitting actually, but I think maybe standing is better. Standing on stage.